2025 turned out to be a big year for Democrats, pushing back against a slew of unpopular policies that were ushered in by Donald Trump in his first year back in office. Democrats swept both of this year's two crucial governor's races, outperformed in House special elections, and according to analysis by Bolts, which covers local elections, Democrats flipped 21% of Republican-held state legislature seats that were contested in 2025. And this very week, on the second to last day of 2025, Democrats closed out the year with one more win in Iowa, a big one, where the Democrat Renee Hardman's landslide special election win prevented a Republican supermajority from taking hold once again in the Iowa State Senate. Hardman was the first black woman elected to the city council in 2017, and now she's made history again as the first black woman elected to the state Senate, winning over 71% of the vote. 71% of the vote. Hardman's landslide victory over the Republican Lucas Lofton prevented the GOP from achieving a two-thirds majority in the state's upper chamber. This is notable in a state that has voted Republican in the past three presidential elections. It's even more notable when you look at Hardman's margin of victory compared to the 2024 presidential election. Kamala Harris won Polk County, Iowa, with almost 55% of the vote in 2024. So Hardman's 71% victory in 2025 is a 16-point increase in that margin of victory on the Democratic side. Renee Hardman joins me now. Renee Hardman, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations on your victory.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Obviously, everybody in the country is looking at everybody else's election, wherever they are, and saying what worked, what happened. So I'm sure you're getting those kinds of questions. I'm going to ask it to you again. What worked for you to create this remarkable margin in your victory?
What worked for me is a village of so many supporters that had a very deep interest in making sure that there was not a supermajority at the state legislature. I went out in the winter, in blizzards, and knocked on doors and talked to so many voters and residents about what was important to them. And the number one issue was affordability and how they can keep more money in their pockets and be able to thrive as families. And so it was just a grassroots effort of so many people. I mean, knocking on doors in November and December. I remember knocking on doors in a blizzard, but I had to go out there and talk to the folks. And affordability and running a values-oriented campaign on positivity, what really works and why, I think is why I prevailed.
And that seems to make sense. When we look at the elections in November, whether it was New Jersey or Virginia or New York City, voters seem less consumed by this thing that we're consumed by on cable TV or things in political parties about whether people are progressive or they're moderates or they're centrists or they're this or they're that. Voters, affordability trumps all of those issues.
Right. Absolutely. Affordability. And what can we do to help make sure working class families or working families survive and thrive? And that's what they're interested in. All of this other kind of stuff that is noise and nonsense, they don't have time for it. And so I made a conscious effort to make sure that I stood away from the noise. I was called various things by my opponent in this campaign. And I just said, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go where the people want me to be. And what they want is someone that's going to listen, learn, and lead. And make decisions that, again, are going to, again, help. I was a voice for all the people, and that was what my motto was, my campaign.
Well, let's talk about the margin with which Kamala Harris won Polk County. One would assume, as often happens in midterm-like elections, that you may have outperformed that. Did you go in assuming that you had that advantage in this race? And did you assume that you had the advantage you ended up having with the margin you got?
No, I did not assume. I went in there saying I'm going to go in there as an underdog. I'm going to go in there, although it's a Democratic-leaning district, the margin for it to be that great, I was not anticipating that. I wanted to win as my opponent did, but I just stayed focused on messaging and focused on the people. And that's what you have to do in campaigns, focus on the people. I think that was refreshing for folks at this time of so much divisiveness, is just having honest conversations at the door.
What is it that people think you can do as a member of the state Senate as it relates to their day-to-day issues like affordability?
I think that as I ran a campaign on affordability, on trying to work with childcare, livable wages, housing. So I'm going to go up there and fight the good fight. I'll probably win some battles and lose some battles, but that's what this is all about. But I think they wanted someone that was going to go up there and be a fighter, be able to work across the aisle, because I think that's critical in city council. While it's nonpartisan, I worked with Republicans and independents for 8 years as a city council person. So I've developed this skill of being able to listen and listen to both sides and try to make a decision what's best in the interests of families and people.
Do you get a sense that you flipped voters, or do voters not care about flipping? Do they care less that they voted Republican last time and they voted Democratic this time? In other words, is it ideology, or was it just your campaign?
I got a nice email from a Republican citizen here, high influential person, that said I did it the right way. They voted for me. And so I think others, in order for that margin to be what it is, I had to have some other folks, independents and Republicans, go out there and say, I know Renee, I know her, I know what she's done in this community already. I know that she's a public servant, and I'm going to give her the chance. So I do think what I had in my favor was all of the community work that I've done for so many years in the state of Iowa. And I do think Republicans looked at that, and they chose someone who was not so divisive.